What's up, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with Tesla SPY and the overall markets. I'm going to talk about some big data that just came out that's causing the market to see a big reaction, not to mention how Tesla's holding up so far. But just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moomoo link. If you deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed 15 in total, not to mention an 8.1% APY on invested cash. The offer ends very soon, in just about 2 weeks from now. Anyways, now let's talk about what's happening with Tesla and the markets. So right now, Tesla's selling off a bit because we have some negative headlines coming out involving the Cybertruck, not to mention a new reaction after PPI data just came out because the market is a little bit in the red during the pre-market as a result of PPI. So let's talk about what the numbers look like and what's happening so far. So with Tesla, I'm not really seeing too much news coming out, but I'm seeing every major news source screaming the Cybertruck is having a recall. The Cybertruck has its sixth recall, this and that. Right, Ford and Tesla have recalls, and we're just seeing this all over the news. They're screaming it over and over and over again. I'm just seeing this headline being regurgitated over and over and over again. Even like for the past hour, I'm seeing more of these headlines coming out. And that's a little bit more negative for Tesla. We have about 2431 Cybertrucks being on this recall because of the NHTSA. If anything, guys, I just think that the media is just screaming so much still, and I think this is somewhat negatively affecting Tesla. But it's not just that; it's also because of technical analysis. Tesla was due to pull back just a bit after so much upside. So those are two of the main reasons why I'm just seeing this headline all over the place. They're still coming out right now with this headline. This news was from yesterday, but it's still once again in the system. And then on top of that, today is Thursday, November 14th. Just know that we just got the PPI report and the numbers were not that great. So PPI month over month was okay at 0.2%. That was aligned with expectations. Core PPI month over month was at 0.3%, aligned with expectations. Initial jobless claims was a little bit short. It came at 217,000, so that was okay. However, just know this. Right over here, we have core PPI year over year. This was at 3.1%. We were expecting 2.8 to 3%, so it was a little bit above the forecast and the consensus. We had a somewhat hot core PPI. And then for PPI year over year, this is basically for all items, we had 2.4%. That's somewhat above the 2.2 to 2.3% target. So I would say the data was close to expectations, somewhat above it year over year, which tends to not be that great. That's why the market saw a small dip when this data came out. But it wasn't really that significant of a dip. The market didn't like crash or anything. It just saw a little bit of a dip. We are seeing some buyers still trying to defend it, but I just wanted to call that out. Now, regardless of if the market like pumps or dumps, whatever happens, just don't forget that we have Jerome Powell, the big guy, giving a speech at 3 o'clock p.m. for today. So even if the market does end up dipping, we'll have to see what happens when he gives his speech. Could he launch the market back up? We'll have to wait and see on that. So just keep that in mind. For more data, today is Thursday right over here, and we just got Walt Disney/Disney announcing their earnings, and they did very, very well with how things ended up coming out. So with Disney's earnings, we had an EPS of $1.14 adjusted above expectations, with revenue at $22.57 billion above expectations as well. The net income also increased to about $460 million or 25 cents per share, which is not bad whatsoever. I think their sporting department came out a little bit short. That was just kind of flat, but everything else is pretty strong when it comes to their streaming platforms, their bundles, and also great news. On top of that, I think I highlighted this right over here about how the full profit in the entertainment streaming business, which excludes ESPN Plus, is expected to see an increase of roughly $875 million compared to the prior fiscal year, which is very, very bullish news. That's once again great news as we're expecting double-digit growth. Very, very bullish in my personal opinion. So for the most part, we're seeing a lot of great increases besides ESPN. They did very, very well. That's the reason why we had good guidance and the share price is up right now. I think currently the share price is up like almost 9%, so not bad whatsoever. So great news for Disney. Anyways, let's talk about what's happening with Tesla and the others. So Tesla has this critical support I'm talking about right over here. We're going to be looking at this resistance firstly at this 330 area. So I have to see if this can try to get back above that. If not, our main support is currently at 322.28. That is aligning with our 20 EMA. So we could be dipping to 322. This is our 20 EMA, the green line you see right here. This is going to be very, very critical for Tesla that we hold this. If we lose this or we close below this on a 4-hour basis, we could see Tesla easily start dumping all the way down to 315. And if that does not hold us, then there could be a bigger dump to get closer to like 300 flats. So just be careful, guys. Tesla needs to try to hold the supports if it wants to get a bounce. If we lose this, there's going to be a bigger risk of downside. So we'll have to see if Tesla could hold this on a 4-hour basis. So I'm talking about the 4 hour. I'm not talking about like 30 minutes or anything like that. I'm talking about a longer period of time. Let's see if we hold 322 or not. I think Tesla might dip closer to it, but we'll see how it reacts to this 20 EMA. So just keep that in mind. That's going to be a very, very critical support for Tesla. So make sure you watch that very carefully. Tesla's getting hit with some negative news. The media is screaming about the recall. Also, PPI was not that great, so it's not really helping Tesla as much. So there is a risk of Tesla dipping a little bit lower. Watch 330 and then 334 as our resistance areas. If we get back above 334, we're looking for essentially 340. And our main support is at 322. So if 325 fails, let's look at 322. We got to hold that. Otherwise, there's going to be a risk of more downsides. Just be very mindful of that. Watch your levels very carefully, and we'll see how well Tesla does. Don't forget, we also have Jerome Powell, the big guy, giving a speech later. So even if we do dip, we'll see if Jerome Powell launches us back up or not. So we'll see, guys. We'll see what Jerome Powell causes. We're going to be very patient nonetheless. As far as SPY goes, we're range bound. The range SPY has been in is between 599 and 595. The last 3 days, we've been stuck in that range. So if we break 599, we're looking for a push back up to all-time highs. If we hold above 599.5 specifically, if we end up losing our critical support at 595, our 20 EMA, there's going to be a risk of us coming back down to about 592 if 595 fails us. So we'll have to see how well it holds up. I do anticipate we might dip a little bit in the morning because of the PPI reports, but then we could get bought back up. So look for a small dip all the way down towards 596.5, then a bounce back up and some sideways price action for now as we're range bound. And then we'll see what happens with Jerome Powell's speech later on. ES, it's stuck between 6,000 essentially and about 6,040. Look for a dip back down to 6,000. We'll see if we get a bounce or not. So give this some time. That's going to be very, very critical for the way things are moving. For Nvda is basically looking at 146. If 146.5 fails us, we're looking for essentially 145, and we have this resistance around this 150 area essentially. So Nvidia is going to get disrupted because of the supply chain changes that are going on right now. That's the reason why it's a little bit more lackluster. I think that we're going to trade sideways. So we're going to be watching this 146.5 support. I think we might dip close to 146.5, and we'll see a lot of choppy price action around here. We got to hold the 20 EMA. If we lose this, there's going to be a risk of us coming back down towards 144. So if we lose 146.5, look for 144 as a potential target. We'll have to see if the support holds or not. So be very careful with Nvidia and be very mindful of the 20 EMA. Bitcoin's dipping a bit. We're just consolidating between 90,000, 94,000, are a little bit below that. I think we're just going to continue to do that. Look for a small dip to about the lower 90,000 area before it tries to bounce again. So I'll be watching that as well very closely. For NQ, it's looking a little bit weaker. We're looking for 21,100 as our target where this imbalance is. Might dip a little bit more. We'll see if we get a bounce off that. If we don't hold 21,100, we could be dipping all the way down towards 21,050. So just keep that in mind. I think that the QQQ is range bound between 510 and 515. If we lose 510 at the 20 EMA, this is critical support. We could be dipping all the way down towards 507. So just be careful on the QQQ. We might test 510 and we'll have to see how it reacts. Apple might be dipping back down to 224, so just keep that in mind. We'll see if we reclaim 225.8 or not. Otherwise, I do see 224 flat coming. The IWM Russell 2000 is a little bit lackluster. We're back at this support. We'll have to see if we break past 236. Otherwise, there's a risk of us coming back down to 234, if not 233. So we could be dipping lower, so give this the time it needs. For Coin's dipping right here. We do have this gap to fill. We also have another gap down here. If we lose 288, I think there's a risk of us coming down to 272, so keep that in mind. For Amazon has resistance around this 216 area. If we reject in that 216 range, we could be dipping closer to about 212. So watch and see if we break 216. Otherwise, 212 is very probable. For Meta, we could be dipping closer to about this 575 area, and also this imbalance down here at 572. I do see a risk of some downside on Meta. For Microsoft, we could be dipping closer to 422 if we don't reclaim 426. So be careful now. It's starting to dip just pre-market session just for the time being. Google's very flat. It's going to consolidate around 180. We'll see if it dips or not to 178. Otherwise, we're just range bound. Anyways, that's it for my video. I want to make this one kind of short and simple. As far as Tesla goes, we are looking a little bit more bearish right now, just a bit more. We're going to be looking for that test of 322. We'll see if we bounce off this or not. Otherwise, Tesla could dip a little bit more. Even if we do dip a little bit more on Tesla, though, do not panic because we have Jerome Powell's speech later on. We'll see if that causes the market to bounce or not. Until then, I thank you all so much for listening. Have a great day and peace out.